All right, I'm going to try to do a quick four variable analysis for you. We're going to do employment status by sex, citizenship, and marital status. I'm going to make this a little easier. I'm just going to do married and never married as my marital status. For citizenship, I'm just going to do born in the U.S. versus not citizen. I could do naturalized. I guess we'll do 3 here to make it somewhat more interesting. And then for sex, we're just going to have male and female. And we're going to care about employment status. I'm going to look at a certain age bracket. So I'm going to look at people from 30 to 40 years of age. Seems like that's a pretty good frame. Okay, so we got 6,000 people in this 30 to 40 range. And so if we just did a 3 variable analysis, for instance, I could do a contingency table. And the key thing to know is employment status is my response, because that's what's listed first. So I would say that employment status is my variable of interest, and I'm interested in, say, the percent that are not in the labor force. This might be, I don't know. We'll just see how this goes. I don't know how it's going to work. So the way to think about this is employment status is what I'm interested in, and specifically what percent of people are not in the labor force. I think this should yield something good. So I'm going to go, this is going to be employment status, and I'm going to put citizenship here, and I'll put marital status here, and do row percent. So as I generate these right here, I'm caring about not in the labor force and not in the labor force. But the problem with this is I don't have sex in here at all. So this, you can easily do 3 variable analysis in ISLE just using a contingency table. But to get to a 4 variable analysis, you have to filter one of your variables and basically do like a turn it on and turn it off. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn on females. I will filter this, and then I will generate, and then I'll turn the women off by removing. This guy must be removing the filter for sex female, then go to sex male, and then reapplying that filter data set, or reapplying the filter. So I have these filters. I'm going to generate. So this one, just so we know, this first one I generated was for female. Now I have male, and I'm going to regenerate. And I'm still looking at not in the labor force. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab this data, and we're going to put this into Google Sheets. So the first part is an ISLE part, because I'm just creating the contingency table. So I have to create 2 sets of contingency tables for 2 levels of my variable. So now I have Drive. I'm going to come over here, Google Sheets. I'm going to paste this first one here. Now I kind of forget what this one is, so I got to kind of make sure I know what the heck I have here. Which one did I just copy? I just copied this one right here, and this one was male. So I'm going to go in here and help myself out and say that this one is male. And then I'm going to put the female one right here. So I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to scroll up to the female one. This is my female one. You're kind of trusting yourself to remember this stuff. I think you should be able to do it. So I have this. And I'm going to put this right here. And I'll make it a little smaller so I can see it. The ideal is I could see everything here, so I don't have to really scroll around too much. I got to move around a little bit. So now, how I'm going to handle this. So it's a little tricky because I got males that are married, I got females that are married, never married. So I think I'm going to go male, married, and there's no surefire way like, oh, this is the right way to do it. You know, there's a couple choices. I'll explain the choices in a second, but I have male married, I have male never married, and then I have the same exact thing but for female. So I'm just going to copy that, and then I'll type in female and female. And then across the top, I'm going to put in my different citizenships. So I have born in the U.S., I have naturalized, and then I have not citizen. And then I'm just going to be pulling out the numbers. And I decided not in the labor force is what I was interested in. So males that are married, only 5% of them are not in the labor force. If they're naturalized, it drops down to 3.2%. And if they're not citizens, it drops down to 2.6%. For males that are never married, not in the labor force, is a whole lot higher. What is going on? 10.2%. I guess if you don't have a wife, if you're not married, no one to tell you to go to work. And then female, I'm going to scroll this down so I can just see what's going on with females. So now females that are married, born in the U.S., not in the labor force, is 17.4%. If you're naturalized, it's at 20%. And if you're not a citizen, it's at 39%. Found a pretty interesting variable. Okay. Never married is at 12.6%, 9.6%, and then 19.6% for non-citizens. So all I did was I just decided on what variable I wanted to look at. Maybe I do a decimal point because my numbers are kind of small. So I'm going to do, I'll keep one decimal point there. Probably could get away without it. Now that I look at it a little closer, it's always better for less if you can get away with it. I was just looking at not in the labor force. So I'm still, just like when I do a 3-variable analysis, I just focus on one of the levels. I'm doing the same thing here. So this is one way to make the table. Now what I want to say is there's another way to make the table as well. I can combine these variables in different ways. I could have married, born in the U.S., and separate it by male, female. Or, so here's my options. I have male, and then I could do the 3 levels of citizenship. Male born in the U.S., male naturalized, male not citizen. And then I could, copy this. And then I could type in female. I can copy this, do female. Type in that female. And then here I would then just have married and never married. I'll show how all these work in a second. So so now I just need to do, so male. So what were these numbers? This is where it would be nice to get my whole percentages back. So I'm going to push these back up. So male born in the U.S., married is at 5.5%. Male never married born in the U.S., 15.7%. Male naturalized, 3.2%. Married. Male naturalized not married, 10.2%. Male not citizen, 2.6%. Not married, 6.5%. So I'm kind of grabbing the digits, right here and here. So now I got born in the U.S., female, 17.4%. If they've never been married, 12.6%. Got 20% if they're naturalized and married. It's down to 9.6% if they're naturalized and not married. If they're not a citizen, it's up to 39% if they're married. And if this is supposed to be never married. And then this last one is 19.6%. Let's just make sure this is right. So this is my never married numbers, 12, 9.6, and 19.6. So that's another way to do it. And because there's 3 variables, there's a third way you could do it. So the third way to do it would be to list the citizenship and then the married. So you could have married U.S. born. Then you could have married naturalized, and you could have married, not citizen, and then again you have the same of these, but the inverse of these, which would be never married U.S. born, never married naturalized. Now, I would not expect you to do all of these. You sort of have to think like, how should I do these? And it's it's never. I mean, I would play around with this because it's sort of worth it to get this right, but it does take some time to figure out how to do this right. So we got male U.S. born, that's 5.5%. Female U.S. born, 17.4%. Male naturalized, married, 3.2%. Male not citizen not citizen married, 2.6%. I guess I'm just going to run down this number here because I can see that this is pretty much the same column. So now when I'm at female, okay, so it does get a little hard to get this. So this is female married not citizen. So this is female married not citizen. You can definitely make a lot of mistakes here if you're not really careful. Never married U.S. born man. So you can see actually like this is naturalized, this is not citizens. Actually, these three numbers are just what I need here. I'm getting a little faster at this now. And then this is female, and it's in the same order, never married. So I could have done this a little faster. So these are all my female digits. So basically, it's these 6 bars right here are right here, and then these 6 bars right here are the males. So now I got all of these, and now I can make them. So I'm just going to highlight this, go insert, chart. Not the way it's supposed to look. So you'll get this made and you'll be like, that is not the way I want it to see this. I want to just do 2 bars like this. And I want to customize this with data labels. I don't want to get too much into this because I want to be able to kind of see it quickly and move on. But we can see at the end of the day here, we have these levels here are the levels here. So now I'm going to come here, grab this, and I'll make another one, and we'll compare them all once we're done with them. Here's this one. Oh, come on. Customize, series, data labels. And then I'll grab this last one, insert, chart, and grab it, edit, customize, series, add data labels. Okay, get rid of the title. Get rid of the title. I'll pull this one down. Maybe I should put these in a slideshow so we can kind of compare them all. It's a little bit hard without looking at them side by side to see like what's the advantages of each. Let me open up a quick slideshow. Okay, so here's my first one I made. Here's my second one that I made. And then here's my third one that I made. Now I hope I don't do these too fast that it doesn't make sense. But let's look at them. Never married, not citizen. Okay. Oh yeah, so they're all different. Good. So here's the first one I made, where I have. So actually, I don't really like how I did this one. I probably would have liked males and females to be next to each other, born in the U.S. This one's kind of focusing on the males. Let's see how this one looks. So here we got males that are married in the citizenships, males that are never married in citizenships, and then okay, so this is sort of what I wanted. I think this is probably the one that I want. So we can see if you're married and U.S. born, only 5% of men are not in the labor force versus 17% of females. If you're married and naturalized, only 3.2% of men are not in the labor force versus 20% of women. If you're married and you're not a citizen, only 2.6% of men are not in the labor force versus 39%. So those are my married categories. So you can see within the married categories, um, we see large discrepancies between men and women when it comes to working, and we see it's most pronounced in not citizens. We see 2.6 versus 39, and surprisingly, um, U.S. born married women, only 17.4% of them are not in the labor force when they're in their 30s, versus only 5.5% for men. So it is kind of interesting. We see that for men, U.S. born married men are the highest not in the labor force, and the least is not citizens. Um, but when it comes to who's most for women that are not in the labor force, it's most for the not citizen women that are married. Now in the bottom, we're looking at never married. So here you can see never married. You got the men and the women. Now the men are more likely to be not in the labor force than women. And that's true for U.S. born and naturalized. They're pretty close though. And then when you look at not citizens never married, it's actually that the men are actually pretty similar to what the U.S. born were, only at 6.5. But then the women jump up. If you're not married and you're not a citizen and you're a woman, almost 20% of those women are not working, compared to 39% when they're married. I think this one's pretty good. My guess is we might see something here. I thought this one was kind of interesting. The difference between married and never married. So if you're a male U.S. born, you're married, 5.5% of you are not working, or not in the labor force at all. And then it's 15.6 if you're not married. So you can see for men, doesn't matter citizenship status. If you're not married, you're much more likely to not be in the labor force. It drops pretty dramatically as you go from born in the U.S. to naturalized to not citizen. Now, when we look at our women and we compare married versus never married, you can see for each citizenship level for women, we're seeing this drop, right? We're seeing the non-labor force number drop from 17 to 12, from 20 to 9 to 39 to 19. There's a lot going on here. This one here, basically you can see for within a particular category, male married, we can see what's going on for citizenship. So it's funny how it's like inverse here. We see like it drops when we go from born in the U.S. to not citizen. But then when we get to females that are married, we see it increases as we go from born in the U.S. to not citizen. And then if they're never married, it kind of does a little bit, jumps down for naturalized and then goes back up for not citizens. So many different ways to look at four variables, I guess, is the story. You find which one works for you. You can extract all the data from any one of these three. I think it's going to come down to you which one you think is easiest for you to make sense of. I thought the distinction between male and female was kind of easiest. I might have pushed together the citizenship. If I were to redo this, I might do like U.S. born married, U.S. born never married, and compare these ones versus these ones. However you cut it, it's a lot of information to take in. So you got to ask yourself, what's the simplest one to look at? And I mean, and maybe if you're actually doing this presentation, maybe you don't share all this information at once. Maybe you just look at the males in one slide and then the females in the other slide, and then you bring it all together into one slide. I don't know. Or you just look at people who are married in one slide and then look at people who are never married. It's almost like, when you get to four variables, you're starting to get to like the limits of a person's imagination or mind to really kind of see all this stuff at once. But this is how you do a four variable analysis. There could be value. I wouldn't say that there's not value. There could be value into breaking it down into just looking at maybe just the men separately and then the women separately and then comparing the two. This is not like, as in many things, it's not clear on what's the best way to do this. Something to think about, I guess, is what I'd say at the end of the day. I don't think I want to redo this and show you how it looks the other way around. We could. I don't know how many minutes have I been talking already? 20 minutes. Yeah, that's enough for this. You get the general gist of how to do this. All right. Thanks, guys.